All right, let's jump back to our code. So here in our app.php file, we have a few things going on. Originally, we set this up in order to capture anything that was specific to our application. And so we added our routes inside of here. As we went on, we added additional functionality to calculate whether a year is a leap year, and we also added a controller for our leap year page. Now, in the spirit of object orientation and splitting our code up into modular components, it would make sense to take this code for the leap year and put it into separate files. Those would then be files that we could possibly wrap into a package and distribute on Packagist or share with other projects. So let's go ahead and set up a new folder that's PSR0 compatible that includes this functionality. What we're going to do is split this up into two sections. The controller will be in its own file, and then isLeapYear will be in a separate file. We'll put them both inside of a folder called Calendar, and then within Calendar, we'll have separate folders for our controllers, of which there will be just one to begin with, and then anything that has to do with our model, which again is the data that we're working with, and isLeapYear is a function that fits that profile. So let's go to our resource pack directory, and we'll go to the 37th step, leapyearcontroller.php, moving our leap year code into a controller, and we'll copy this and paste it inside of our examples folder. We'll rename it to leapyearcontroller.php, and then let's take a look at this by opening it in our editor. First, we're setting up our namespace, which is going to be in Calendar, and then inside of our controller folder, so we need to add that to our namespace in order to make it PSR0 compatible. The rest of this code is nearly identical to what we have in our app.php file right here, except instead of using a function for isLeapYear, we're going to be using a class that we wrap around that function. So if we jump back to the controller, we see that we create a new leap year, and then we run the isLeapYear method on that and pass it the year. Next, let's go ahead and create this leap year class. We'll go back to our resource pack directory, and let's copy the 36th step here, which is called leapyear.php, moving model code into its own file. And we'll go over to our example folder, paste it in, and rename it leapyear.php. Now let's take a look at this one in the editor. We have a similar namespace to our controller. We're starting with Calendar, but then the folder that this code is inside of model. The class is leapyear. We have one method called isLeapYear. It takes year as a parameter, and then it runs the same calculation that we've been running before to calculate whether it's a leap year or not. All right, so the next step is to organize these files correctly so that they work within the namespaces that we've set for them. If you go back to the resource pack directory, this next step is a set of instructions to do just that. So I'll open that up. We're going to create a folder in the source directory called Calendar, and then another folder called Calendar Controller, and we'll move the leap year controller into it. And then we'll make another folder called Model inside of this Calendar folder, and we'll move leap year into that. All right, so I'm going to jump back to our example folder. I'm going to open up the source directory, and I'll create a new folder called Calendar. I'll open that directory up and create a couple of new folders, one called Controller and one called Model. Now I'll bump back up to the source of our examples and expand the source folder. And let's move leap year controller into the controller folder, and we'll move leap year into the model folder.